Hello, and welcome everyone to our Vistatec Life Sciences in Focus podcast. Fascinating conversations with global life sciences experts. This is a space where we interview life science experts once a month, and I'm your host, Karen Katchig. I am delighted to talk with today's guest, Julie Moon, a friend of mine. She is currently Chief Strategy Officer at Global RWC, about which she will tell you more in a flash. Julie has had a fascinating career, and I'm grateful to have you here today in conversation. So, to get started, please would you tell our listeners a little about your origin story and how you got to where you are now?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So thank you, Karen, so much for having me here today. It's definitely a pleasure. I'm happy to share a little bit about me. So I grew up on a family farm, and honestly, I think that shaped almost everything about how I work today. We did organic produce. So as a kid, I was literally out there, hand picking insects off plants before we'd, take that produce to go sell at local stands. It taught me work ethic really early, but it also sparked this fascination with science and biology. I remember looking, at some pond water under a microscope and just being completely amazed that there was this entire invisible world affecting everything around us. So that initial combination of science and curiosity and hard work, really became my foundation. But it didn't stop there. So, we didn't grow up with much ourselves, but my parents were always finding ways to help other people, buying clothes and toys for underprivileged children and food for families in need, whenever they could. So that had a huge impact on me. I think that's a big part of why helping patients and bringing meaningful therapies to people who are suffering is feels so important and personal to me today. Over the years, I ended up building a career across both biotech and medtech in quality, regulatory, manufacturing, operations, really a little bit of everything. I've led global project teams. I've helped development programs for biologics and devices. I've built entire organizations and systems from scratch, and I even started and ran my own business for a few years. But really, the common thread through all of it has always been people and purpose. So just, getting a little bit to my why. My why is really about, helping bring meaningful products to the market that can genuinely improve lives, especially for those patients who might not have many options. In this industry, it's so easy to get buried in timelines and the documents and deviations and all of the technical details, all of it. But, at the end of the day, there's still a human being, a person on the other side, your grandmother, your child, your sister, your mom, waiting on the other side for that treatment, a device, or some kind of health breakthrough. And I think then, the other part of my why is building teams that people actually want to be a part of. I care a lot about creating environments where people feel valued, where there's clarity that we're all matching or marching to the same drum. Accountability is hugely important. I also like to instill some humor, and we got to keep that momentum going. In my teams, people know we're solving hard problems, but we're solving them together. I've never really also been afraid of unfamiliar territory. I think starting a business from scratch taught me that, you adapt quickly, you got to figure things out on your own, and you got to keep moving. And that mindset, helped me throughout my career, whether I was leading, a medical device, development team, building a CMC center of excellence, or stepping into business development for the first time this last year and dramatically growing our client engagement. At the core, I really just love building things, products, teams, systems, relationships, especially when the work has such a potential to make somebody's life better. So that's kind of my origin story and
Lovely.
my why.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you for sharing that with
Sure.
our listeners. So, so you have landed after all those interesting roles at Global Regulatory Writing and Consulting. So why don't you tell us about Global, RWC and GXT? Shall we start with Global, where you are, where you see it
Sure.
going in 26 and beyond?
Yeah, that sounds great. Yep. So Global RWC, Global Regulatory Writing and Consulting. I've been here for a little over 6 years. It's been a phenomenal experience. So what do we do here at Global or Global RWC? So we help med tech and biotech companies from early development through post commercialization. So really the entire product life cycle, navigate the regulatory pathway. That's probably the best one-liner to kind of sum up everything we do here. But really at the end of the day, our job is to help get products approved, to do it quickly, correctly, and be strategic about it. I think one thing that makes Global unique is that we really operate through two strong core arms in our business, our med tech team and our biotech team. And they're led collaboratively between our COO, our CEOM, and myself. And that structure really gives us the ability to support a very broad range of products and product challenges while staying highly specialized. I'd say, one thing that I've been, especially excited about is finding opportunities that genuinely improve the client experience, wherever we can remove friction, where can we simplify communication, or where can we make, the processes easier to navigate, because when it's easier for the client, it's usually faster, it's usually more efficient, and ultimately, there's a strong likelihood it'll be lower cost while we're maintaining that highest level of quality. And a few examples of that are some of the partnerships and expanded services we've built recently. Our collaboration with your team, Karen, that's helped strengthen, global document translation capabilities. I'm also pushing hard to partner up with some biotech and medtech CDMOs to offer, IND, BLA, 510K, PMA authoring for their clients. And we've also just recently, expanded to offer, site or establishment registration support. So, you know, clients can handle more of their regulatory needs in one place, but through strategic partnership. We've also continued building flexible cross-functional support models. So our clients don't feel like they're managing 5 different vendors just to move their program forward. We find that, it's our youngest clients really appreciate that extra level of coordination. Um, and we do try and operate, as a true partner, not just a service provider, not a commodity. A lot of companies, especially the smaller or the growing ones, are trying to move so quickly, manage, investor, commitments, and regulatory commitments and financial commitments. And, some of our clients are literally just 2 to 5 employees strong. And we understand that pressure, and we want our clients to feel like they have a team that's responsive and practical and invested in helping them succeed. And I believe that they do. I would like to
Absolutely.
just point out, one thing about particularly our biotech CMC team here. One thing that really strengthens them is that many of them have direct industry experience beyond consulting. They've worked in manufacturing environments, in development labs. They've managed the quality system. They've, developed analytical methods. They've participated in product tech transfer. So they've actually been involved in making and developing products, not just, writing about them from a regulatory perspective. So that alone really adds, um, a different level of practicality to the work, having that operational experience. When we're helping clients build a strategy or author some documentation, we're also thinking, well, what's realistic for them operationally? They probably don't have an EQMS yet because they're just starting out. So we have to, provide document control support for them a little bit differently. Um, So, what are the health authorities going to be likely to focus on when they come and review your documentation? What do we need to figure out right now so that it doesn't cause a huge problem downstream? So I think that combination of technical depth and real world execution experience is incredibly valuable for our clients, especially in complex biologics and CMC programs. So I know that was a
Yeah,
lot,
yeah,
but
no,
yes,
absolutely.
and
It it's I particularly like what you said about the hands-on prior practical experience in various domains because that's also my experience, right? I have, you know, handled document control and run a quality assurance system and handled product technology transfer. And I, so though that you spoke to me there intimately, it's absolutely helpful as you're
mhm,
supporting your clients in other phases of your career. Yeah, yeah. Thank
for
you for
sure.
that. So
Sure,
tell us
sure.
about GXT, which is the other another part of Global, your software solutions, and perhaps can you give us some real world examples on how you're seeing AI plus a human expert working?
hmm Sure,
Yeah.
sure. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So we, yep, our sister company is Global Exponential Technologies or GXT. And its main focus is in developing, next gen software solutions for device and biopharma professionals, not just for regulatory consultants like Global. Interestingly, we actually, GXT just gave a product demo for a biologics CDMO last week. So even the CDMOs are looking for, assistive writing technologies. So that was really exciting. We're focusing on tools that help improve efficiency, organization, and really the overall regulatory and tech writing process. Um, I'd say one thing, we've seen across the industry is that regulatory quality technical teams are managing just this massive amounts of complex information across multiple systems and timelines. And, so there's a huge opportunity to build smarter tools that help professionals get to that key information faster, to improve, collaboration and just get work done more easily. And I think, the most exciting part is the ability to give highly skilled experts more time to focus on the strategic and technical decision making things to do rather than just, the repetitive manual tasks. Like, for example, I could see, software, helping to accelerate a document structure, to, develop, trace matrices between, submission requirements and deliverables and source documentation, organizing large sets of data, things like that. I think those kinds of efficiencies, can really have, a meaningful impact on timelines and overall program execution. So yeah, when I think about GXT, I really think of it being enablement, building the tools that support the people doing the work and helping them operate at a higher level. So
Very
that's a little
good.
bit about, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, thank
Hmm.
you.
Yep.
All right. So let's talk about AI a little more
hmm
since we are in
hmm
2026, right? Tell me, so do you use AI to author your regulatory submissions, or what is your opinion on AI-based authoring tools more generally? I think I know the answer to this question, but let have our listeners hear your answer.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Because honestly, it's probably the most common question we're getting right now when we're out and about at our conferences. Are you guys using AI to write your regulatory documentation? And the short answer is the shortest answer, and that is no. We are not using AI to independently author any of our regulatory submissions. I will add the but here. Now, I do think that AI and advanced software tools will, continue to evolve and become part of the authoring process 100% without a doubt. In fact, I think there's tremendous potential for tools to accelerate drafting, improve the flow, enhance traceability, like I was mentioning, and removing some of that repetitive work. But in highly regulated industries like medtech and biotech, the human expert is still absolutely critical. I mean, the data's too important. The context of what we're trying to do is too important. The data interpretation is too important. I mean, regulatory writing isn't just assembling words on a page, it's understanding the science, understanding the strategy, what are our risks, mitigation plans, operational realities again, how's the health authority going to view, what we're presenting to them, you know, and there are also very real considerations around client data security, especially in a business like ours where we're handling sensitive IP and information across multiple clients and development programs. I mean, for example, we would never just upload, one of our clients' drug substance comparability reports into ChatGPT and ask it what it thought, for example. So I don't personally see a future where experienced regulatory and technical professionals will be removed from the process, but I do think the future is going to be much more about human expertise being enhanced by smarter tools, not replaced by them. So the ideal model really is, that AI plus experienced human judgment, where the tech helps experts work faster, but the people remain, fully accountable and control.
Indeed, that's our take on it here, Vistatech, as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Well, I think we possibly should come to an end. But before we go, is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience, Julie?
yeah, two things really quick. And I'm just really excited about, the future of global in 2026 and in the years to come. And when I think about where we're headed next, I think one of the most exciting things happening right now is the continued evolution of advanced therapies, especially in oncology, cell and gene therapy, and then in precision medicine. We're seeing a real rise in combination products, and what I like to call combination-like products, companion diagnostics for biomarker screening, IBDs tied to therapy, gene therapy delivery devices, and then all the, complex modalities like all the conjugated products like your AOCs and your peptide drug conjugates. And really, like the line between drugs, biologics, devices, and diagnostics are continually beginning to blur. So more and more therapies are requiring, expertise across multiple disciplines at the same time. And I think that positions Global really well for the future. We've intentionally built capabilities and trusted partners, that allow us to support clients across both the biotech and medtech sides of the development. So instead of a company trying to coordinate multiple disconnected vendors, we can help provide more integrated support for these increasingly complex products and programs. And, more integration means a stronger regulatory strategy because things are unified. So, that's what really excites me most about where Global's headed for 2026. And then, yeah, just to kind of wrap it up, I guess I would just like to encourage anybody listening on today, especially the folks in product development, to, take a step back when you have a breather and look at what you do on a day-to-day basis and think about where things could be a little easier, a little faster, more efficient, and getting those therapies across the finish line. And honestly, I feel like, sometimes the most valuable opportunities aren't even in the core of what you're doing. They're at the edges of what you do, or what I'd call those invisible work boundaries, the data and information handoffs, who's receiving your product internally, between the different functions, disciplines, or even different organizations. A lot of the product we've made, progress, excuse me, we've made here at Global has come from intentionally building those connections, whether it's bringing together medtech and biotech expertise, creating strategic partnerships that expand capabilities for clients, or finding ways to, reduce friction across the development process. So, I think when people are willing to reach across the boundaries and collaborate a little differently or creatively, that's where real innovation and especially momentum can happen. So if any of that resonates with the listeners, or if anybody wants to connect and exchange ideas or brainstorm, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or the website. I would seriously love to chat.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Julie. Yes. Yes. Exchanging ideas is always the start of the next big thing, isn't it? Well, thank you very much. Thank you so much, Julie, for your insights today. And to our audience, this Life Sciences in Focus podcast is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other leading platforms, as well as on YouTube if you prefer to watch it. Please make sure to tune in again next month for Vistatec Life Sciences in Focus, fascinating conversations with global life sciences experts.